Chapter 42. Challenge. From the heart. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the egg. Master, forgive me for being blunt, but what you said from the heart probably has some other intentions. That. There is. Yi Tianshan's face turned red when he heard this, and his gaze was a little uncertain. An old monster who had lived for tens of thousands of years had lost his composure, causing the laughter in the huge egg to become even louder. No. The voice in the egg was full of cunning. Then why did you pass the monarch flame's secret skill to that little guy? Xiaolong remembered that back then, the Middle Domains Alchemist Association used a rare Tier 8 medicine pill formula and the position of guest elder to exchange with you. You didn't even exchange it. Yi Tianshan coughed lightly and said, this is different from the past. At that time, I didn't lack medicinal formulas, and I didn't want to be restricted by that so-called void title. Now, I am about to die, and the Monarch Flame secret skill. The Monarch Flame in the world is common, and I can't let it disappear with my fall. Since that little guy happens to have the Monarch Flame, I'll use this to repay the kindness of others. Hee hee. The huge egg was silent for a while. Just as Yi Tianshan was about to say something, a long sigh suddenly came from the former. Master, we have been together for tens of thousands of years. How can I not understand your thoughts? Yi Tianshan was silent for a long time when he heard this. After which, he sighed emotionally and said, Little dragon, you are right. I do have some thoughts about that little fellow. Originally, after I fell. In order to not let those fellows succeed, I exhausted the soul origin and created this illusionary realm. Those guys couldn't find my corpse, so they set up several layers of seals outside the Saint Meteorite Mountain in anger. For the past 10,000 years, no ordinary saints have been able to find my location. I was alone, almost in despair. However, before I die, I met you, who was saved by Xiao Yan, and I was able to see you again before my soul dissipated. I was extremely excited. Even when I obtained the Thousand Leaves Ancient Monarch Fire, I wasn't as excited as you. So, I am extremely grateful to Xiao Yan. Originally, I only wanted to give him guidance for a few years. It was enough for him to build a good foundation, but ever since I saw his flame mantra burning spell skill. After the devouring ability of his Chaos Great Monarch Flame, I had other thoughts. At this moment, Yi Tianshan was like an old man in his twilight years. He did not have a trace of the aura of a supreme saint, and his voice was filled with an endless sense of age. The huge egg was silent for a while, and finally said after a long while, do you think he will become an ultimate saint expert in the future? No. Yi Tianshan's old face was slightly moved. He said, it is so easy to become a supreme saint. Even if he has a rare treasure, it will not be easy for him to become a supreme saint. If that's the case, why do you think so highly of him? That organization. I'm afraid those below the sage level are not qualified to get their hands on it. The rate at which the huge egg trembled slowed down, and the dragon's roar within it also calmed down. How can I not know all of this? However, it's still better to leave some hope behind. At the very least, I should be able to retain a trace of fantasy. More importantly, my level of soul fire. If there was a trace of spiritual will, it would not be extinguished. At that time, I might be able to regenerate it with a great opportunity. Yi Tianshan said. The same thing. His eyes, which were full of mulberry, revealed a trace of elite light. A sigh sounded out from the huge egg. Then, the fire dragon let out a soft sigh and no longer spoke. It knew that its master was not reluctant to leave his life behind. As a famous alchemist saint master, he was killed by 2 supreme saints in Forest Domain. This revenge, it was something that Yi Tianshan wanted to take even in his dreams. The atmosphere became dull for a while. Suddenly, Yi Tianshan smiled and said, don't worry, my eyesight is very sharp. Ordinary people won't be able to catch my eye. But for that little guy, I still have some confidence in him. Just as the voice was about to come out of the egg, the surface of the egg suddenly trembled violently. Rays of light that represented the source scattered in all directions. Every time a ray of light was emitted, the light on the giant Dao dimmed a little. At the same time, painful dragon roars kept coming out from within. Yi Tianshan's facial expression changed drastically when he saw this scene through the fire curtain. He didn't hesitate at all. Both of his hands struck at the fire curtain with lightning speed. In an instant, the wind and clouds in the sky above the square changed drastically. The few white clouds that were originally dotted in the clear sky were instantly destroyed. At the same time, both of his hands struck out. Yi Tianshan's eyes widened as an extremely vast soul force surged out from between his eyebrows. It entered the fire curtain at lightning speed and wrapped around the giant egg layer by layer. After doing all of this, the sound of pain in the egg immediately weakened, but the originally dazzling light on its surface was now extremely dim. Yi Tianshan retracted his trembling hands and looked at the huge egg with endless anxiety. Xiaolong, how do you feel? After a long time, the weak voice of the fire dragon came out of the fire curtain. I can only hold on for another year at most. After saying that, the fire curtain broke into an uproar. 1 year. Taking a deep breath, Yi Tianshan looked at the place where the fire curtain disappeared. His handsome face had been replaced by an aged face. The image of the moment the little dragon fell once again appeared in his mind. Half of the sky in forest domain was filled with flames. Dragon roars shook the sky. A huge dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long turned into countless streams of fire and scattered in all directions, making it impossible for those guys to chase after it. When he thought of this, Yi Tianshan felt a little heartache. He clenched his fists in his sleeves. His eyes were filled with boundless fury. It was as if those venomous viper-like fellows had appeared in front of him once again. He threw a punch and sent 4 emperor-rank spirit beasts flying in front of him. Xiao Yan borrowed the strength of his body and jumped onto a huge tree. Seeing the spirit beasts fly out and break a few trees along the way, turning into a pure soul that disappeared, Xiao Yan's eyes also had a few traces of excitement. In these past few days, he had become completely familiar with the Sky Spill Fist. Using it was as easy as touching his palm, and it was also the Monarch Flame secret skill. Xiao Yan now had a better understanding of it. Although the Monarch Flame secret skill was the Monarch skill cultivated by the Monarch Flame, it was also very beneficial to those who possessed the Monarch Flame. Not only could it increase one's strength, but it could also strengthen one's physique. After being constantly burned by the Chaos Great Monarch Flame, although he had experienced some pain in the middle, Xiao Yan's physical strength had greatly improved. Whether it was his physical strength or toughness, they were all much stronger than before. After advancing to the 4 sovereign warriors, he relied on the powerful origin chains contained within the 4 origin monarch key in his body. Xiao Yan was confident that he could fight against 6 or 7 ordinary sovereign warriors, and after tempering his body, ordinary 7 or even 8 sovereign warriors, Xiao Yan was very confident that he would be able to defeat them. If he counted the strength that he had gained after using the Monarch Flame secret skill, as long as he didn't meet those abnormal disciples of a big family, he would be able to defeat them. It could be said that no one could defeat Xiao Yan. I wonder how strong he is with all his strength. Xiao Yan calmed down his excitement and looked into the depths of the forest. There should be stronger spirit beasts there. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan's mind, which had just calmed down, instantly became active again. After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Yan could not help but have a restless thought in his heart. He immediately threw his worries to the back of his mind and tapped the treetop with the tip of his foot. Like a spiritual monkey, he ran into the depths of the forest. After passing through a layer of the soul mirror, Yi Tianshan looked at Xiao Yan who was heading towards the depths of the forest. After a little doubt, he smiled lightly. This little guy really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Since that's the case, I'll play with you for a few days. As he spoke, a few streams of soul energy surged out from between his brows and rushed into the forest below. In the blink of an eye, they landed in the center of the forest. Under Yi Tianshan's control, these few streams of soul energy turned into several spirit beasts of different sizes and scattered in all directions. One of the spirit beasts directly rushed towards the direction where Xiao Yan had come from. Xiao Yan, who was advancing in the forest, suddenly frowned. His running figure immediately stopped. In the next moment, a tiger-shaped spirit beast roared and appeared on the grassland not far away. 9-peak level Emperor Spirit Beast. He sensed the strong aura contained within the tiger-shaped spirit beast. Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched, but immediately, a hint of excitement surged into his eyes. Little guy, although these spirit beasts are formed from my soul, they have already escaped my control. Furthermore, I won't attack. Your life and death will depend on your strength. Just as Xiao Yan was about to fight, Yi Tianshan's mocking voice suddenly sounded beside his ear. These. Noticing the sensitive words in Yi Tianshan's words, Xiaoyan's brows twitched. He looked to the right and saw a few pairs of blood-red eyes staring at him from afar. The owner of each pair of blood-red eyes was stronger than the tiger-shaped spirit beast in front of him. Xiaoyan exhaled a breath of air in shock. He licked his dry lips and a fiery heat slowly ignited within his heart. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at the ferocious-looking red spirit tiger in front of him. His heart gradually calmed down. His eyes were like two sharp swords as they stared at the latter. The red spirit tiger suddenly let out a tiger roar after being pierced by Xiaoyan's gaze. In the next moment, a fiery red figure pounced towards Xiaoyan with lightning-like speed. At the same time that the red spirit tiger moved, Xiaoyan also started moving. Both of his feet pushed off the tree slightly. Borrowing the force of the impact, Xiaoyan quickly approached the red spirit tiger. Both of his hands formed a fist and violently smashed down towards the tiger's head. As a spirit beast, the red spiritual tiger knew some combat techniques. When it saw that Xiaoyan wanted to fight it head-on, a human-like mocking look flashed in its eyes. Immediately, its four limbs tensed up and it roared furiously as it pounced towards Xiaoyan. On the huge tiger head, there was a vague feeling. Hong Long. When the spirit beast's strength reached the intermediate level, it would be equivalent to the human emperor level. The violent origin monarch ki within his body would gradually calm down, and during battle, it would be automatically released along with the rise of his aura, which would be a great help to the battle. Not only that, some of the stronger spirit beasts could also control some origin monarch ki. Using the powerful body to refine the origin monarch ki, he would use them to refine the origin monarch ki during the battle. It was extremely helpful in both offense and defense. At this moment, the ray of light in front of the red spiritual tiger turned into a transparent barrier in a blink of an eye. The barrier was filled with thick origin monarch ki. It would not be a problem for it to block Xiaoyan's punch. As long as it could block this punch, the tiger claw that was flashing with cold light would rush into Xiaoyan's stomach without any resistance. Just as the fist was about to hit the barrier, a strange smile appeared on Xiaoyan's face. In the next moment, the sharp ki in his body suddenly disappeared. The red spiritual tiger only felt that its vision blurred slightly, and Xiaoyan's figure had disappeared. As soon as Xiaoyan's fierce aura disappeared, the target that the red spirit tiger targeted also suddenly disappeared. It was just like a punch with all its strength hitting the air. That kind of feeling caused the origin monarch ki within the red spirit tiger's body to churn. A tiger jumped onto a giant tree. The red spiritual tiger had yet to recover from its shock. It felt a wave of hot energy coming from behind it. The red spiritual tiger was startled. The next moment, it suddenly roared and instinctively jumped forward. Almost at the same time, a huge black ruler carrying layers of flame swept past. It burned the place where the red spiritual tiger was standing into ashes. The red spiritual tiger narrowly avoided the foot that almost cost it its life. The red spiritual tiger's tiger eyes were glowing with red light as it laid on the ground. Its huge body trembled slightly, the muscles on its forelimbs trembled, and a deep tiger roar was emitted from its throat from time to time. Its resentful gaze was like a sharp blade as it stared at Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan looked at it indifferently. He flapped his heavenly phoenix wings and landed on the ground. He kept the profound heavy ruler into his interspatial storage ring and said with a smile, "You're really quick to dodge. You're indeed stronger than those 4 or 5 grade spirit beasts. In that case, I won't hold back anymore." After saying that, Xiaoyan rushed forward like a cheetah while the red spiritual tiger was still in shock. At the same time, the tiger's ki also increased dramatically. By the time the red spiritual tiger reacted, Xiaoyan was only a few meters away from it. When it sensed Xiaoyan's ki, the red spiritual tiger immediately roared towards the sky. 8th-ranked emperor. This fellow was definitely not someone that it could deal with alone. Before the tiger's roar faded, the sound of rushing wind could be heard without end. Several powerful spirit beasts roared and charged forward. Chapter end.